Okay, I just have to ask, how stupid is Donna Adelson? Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney, guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Let me cut in here just for a second and tell you that at the end of this video, I'm going to announce a contest that I think you might be interested in. So try to stay tuned to the end. You'll find it pretty interesting, I think. And there are just some things like stupidity that I can't make sense of. I'm not even going to try, but I am going to tell you what I think, and you can take it for what it's worth. Now, I know that I have said on here before that there is a difference between a fairy tale and a war story. And a fairy tale starts off once upon a time, and a war story starts off, you're not going to believe this, but, well, this little piece is background, but I still think it's relevant, and it's my story, and it's my channel, so I get to tell the story. At one point, when I was in the military, I was in an outfit that regarded operational security, or OPSEC, as paramount. Now, that's because we were dealing with intelligence that was classified well above top secret. I know you probably think it's hard to have anything higher than top secret, but trust me, it is. One of the posters plastered all over the place in areas where we worked had this guy right here and the statement, "The third man is listening." Now, the third man was that nasty little bugger from a hostile country who was going to overhear our whispers at lunch at the Pizza Palace and report them back to Moscow or Beijing or North Korea or Iran. I don't know. I never saw a guy dressed like that, but then again, if he wore that kind of uniform, he probably wouldn't have been a very good spy, now would he? I was reminded of that poster yesterday when the news broke about Donna Adelson. I know I've talked on here before about how people like Jesse Krzyzewski made incriminating statements on calls from jail. Now, everybody who has been in jail, and who certainly anybody who's made a call from jail, knows that all the calls are monitored. They're recorded and they're monitored. And in fact, they even have a disclaimer at the front end that says, guess what? This call is being recorded. In Krzyzewski's case, she gave the prosecution ample evidence of her mendacity. And you'll remember their theme was murder, greed, and lies. And as a result, having given the prosecution ample evidence of her mendacity, it made it much easier for them to get a conviction. Now, apparently, Charlie called Mama Adelson from jail, and in the course of having a discussion about what his parents were going to do following his conviction, she told him that she was planning on either killing herself or flying to a place without an extradition treaty. Now, one of those places is Vietnam. Now, you can always tell somebody who's a narcissist because they never really actually think about killing themselves. It's the kind of thing you say when you want to get sympathy, or have your son prove that he loves you by saying, "Oh, no, Mom, please don't kill yourself." At any rate, I digress. The bottom line is she made these statements, and she did it on a recorded phone call from the jail. Now, this was Mensa-level genius here, because this is the situation. Charlie and Mama apparently forgot that they were not speaking just to each other. As you can see in this graphic, they were actually telling the cops and the district attorney all about their plans. Now, it does sort of go without saying that you don't plan on traveling to a country without an extradition treaty if you don't think you might be arrested and extradited. Duh! Adelson sat in that trial. Don Adelson sat in that trial. Charlie Adelson has been locked up for quite some time. He's heard other prisoners talk. He knows that phone calls are recorded. This is not news to him, and yet he lets his mom spill her plans. Genius! So the cops, having heard this, go to a judge and they get a warrant for her arrest. And keep in mind, they might not have had an opportunity or a reason to go get an arrest warrant at that point, because they might not have had all of the evidence they needed. Now she is on the phone talking to Charlie and says, "I'm going to go somewhere where there's no extradition treaty." Again, like I said, that sort of implies she has guilty knowledge and she's worried about being arrested and tried. Because if she were not guilty, I think the reasonable approach is to stand up there and tell the jury that and avoid conviction through the truth. But it reminds me of the biblical statement that the guilty flee, but the righteous are as bold as lions. If you flee, there is a pretty good indication, and all prosecutors will tell a jury that that is a marker for guilt. So the cops go to the judge and they get a warrant for her arrest. They notify the FBI, who find reservations for flights to Dubai and then on to Vietnam. And now they have corroboration of her plans, and the FBI swoops in and arrests Donna at the airport. There she was, just seconds away from getting on that airplane, that big freedom bird, and flying off so that the FBI couldn't get her. And then, snip, snip, the bracelets went on, and all of a sudden, Donna has a big problem. You know why the FBI arrested her? Because it's a crime to flee across state lines, which of course means also international lines, in order to escape prosecution. It's called interstate flight to avoid prosecution. So even if, for whatever reason, they don't get her convicted on the murder, they've got pretty good evidence for the federal conviction that could be in the offing if they aren't successful. I just point that out because she has painted herself into a corner here. So the FBI brings her plans to an end. Now, I'm smart enough never to commit a murder, and I'm also smart enough not to ever engage in a criminal conspiracy. But if I did, I wouldn't talk about it on the phone, any phone. And given all of the recorded calls that were played during Charlie Adelson's trial, where they wiretapped them, you would think everyone with the last name of Adelson would know that. For heaven's sakes, they played a call between Charlie and Donna. Apparently, even though the Adelsons should have known that, they didn't. Now, if I was actually planning to flee to a country and fly to Vietnam to live the high life growing rice in rice paddies, I would hire 2 actors. I'd call them Bob and Jane. And I'd dress them in wigs and sunglasses so they looked a little bit like me and my husband. And then I'd send them to the airport with reservations made on my credit card to fly to Vietnam. I would tell them this was a video prank for YouTube and that they wouldn't be able to see the guy with the camera, but trust me, he was filming the whole thing. And indeed, much of it would be filmed, probably by body cameras. And to go to the ticket counter and ask for the flight that was leaving and then mill around outside security, because they're not going to get through security because they don't have any ID that identifies them as the Adelsons, because this is just basically to break through the surveillance. So about 5 minutes after those folks skied out from my house, and assuming that not only they were under observation, but the house was too, I would sneak out the back door dressed as a gardener, walk out the back gate and call a taxi from a burner phone to take me to the harbor, where I would pay cash for a nice yacht and sail that thing out beyond the 12-mile limit so that I was in international waters. That would make things much more difficult for anybody that wanted to take me in. I would then sail to a number of different places that don't have extradition treaties, like Venezuela, and I'd board a flight and go to Vietnam if that's what I wanted to do. But criminals are just not that bright. They never believe that they're under surveillance because they don't see it. Well, that's why they call it surveillance. If you're not supposed to see it. If you see surveillance, things are really bad for you, because then they're letting you know you better not try and run. But like I said, criminals are not just not that bright. You look at Brian Koberger, who is alleged to have killed the 4 students in Idaho. He studied criminal law and criminal procedure, and he knew the techniques law enforcement used to catch killers. In spite of this, he left a scabbard at the scene and DNA on the scabbard at the crime scene, and he didn't kill someone who could have identified him. Now, I'm not saying he should have here. Believe me, I don't want an extra death in that case. It's awful as it is. I'm just saying, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. No matter how careful you are as a criminal, you leave a trail, you make a mistake, and you get caught. Then, after you do, you keep your mouth shut, you say nothing, you let your lawyer do the talking. In the history of law in this country, even with our protections against self-incrimination, People still talk to the cops like Kerchevsky to try and mislead them, and then they convict themselves. No one that I know of who was guilty of a crime ever talked himself out of jail, but I know hundreds who have talked themselves into jail. Now, when you think about it, there are a lot of things the Adelsons could have done to improve their visitation with their grandkids and ensure their access to them. The hardest years for a couple after a divorce are years 1 through 5, and that's because feelings of betrayal are still fresh and people have lots of anger. The Markel divorce was filed in 2012. It was granted in 2013, although there were additional motions that were filed after that, including one right before the murder to limit Donna Adelson's visitation and make it supervised visitation. That may have been the true catalyst for the murder. I don't know. In other words, there were still in that period of time where emotions for this divorce were still very raw. Anger was rampant, and there was a lot of anger even with the in-laws here. So James Butler, who has a channel on here called Septic Life, says that anger makes you stupid. And you know what? He is right. People do stupid, counterproductive things because they're angry. Have you ever dropped something on the floor that you needed and then dropped it again and then dropped it a third time and then kicked the darn thing because it kept falling out of your hands only to collide with a counter and break your toe? Right? Even I do stupid things, but I try not to because I don't want to be a stupid person. You have to rein in anger because anger does indeed make you stupid. Now, before I became a lawyer, I clerked for a law firm in St. Louis that did a lot of divorce work. One client was an accountant, and the accountant hated his soon-to-be ex-wife. But the lawyers had worked together, and they've crafted a compromise plan that would have given the wife the tax credit for the children in year 1, and then given the accountant the tax credit for the kids every year thereafter. He's a high earner. He's an accountant. He understands the value of that compromise. It was hugely beneficial to him. And he said, "No, I'm not giving that," and here he used an unflattering and vulgar word for a female canine, "her anything." I imagine that in the years that followed, he had lots of regrets that he had been stupid. St. Louis judges generally make sure women were taken care of, and in the trial, she got pretty much everything she wanted, or, as the song goes, she got the mine, he got the shaft. In my own life, my divorce was very painful the first 5 years because my ex-wife kept petitioning for more child support that I thought was already at a confiscatory level. But eventually, I got to the point of forgiveness after about 5 years, and I'm glad I did. I think every couple that gets divorced as a part of their filing fee ought to have to go to counseling before the divorce and then for at least a year after the divorce to ensure that the kids are not held hostage or turned against the other party. If we had such a law, if we had such a program, it would minimize the anger and you might avoid some of the problems that occur post-divorce. Zip, back to Donna Adelson. She wasn't smart, and I'm pretty sure, having seen the evidence against Charlie and having dug a lot deeper into this case, that the state will be successful in prosecuting her. Again, she has a presumption of innocence at this point, and I'm not saying that she doesn't. I was unaware until recently that the divorce court had received a motion to limit Donna's visitation. Now, Wendy would not have benefited from her ex-husband's death. It would have cut her ability to get child support, and it would have cut her income stream significantly. So I believe that while she may have known about what Charlie had said and maybe even knew beforehand that they were thinking about this, I don't think she was in on it. I don't think that she believed it would happen. But I have to say, I did find her testimony to be a little bit incredible, specifically when she's on the stand and she says that she didn't review Charlie's indictment. I can assure you that any lawyer whose sibling had been indicted would look at the indictment. I felt like that was terribly incredible. At any rate, this whole thing is a great tragedy for Wendy and for her kids. The kids lost their dad, they lost their uncle, and now they're likely to lose their grandmother, even though, again, as I said, she's innocent until proved guilty. So at any rate, I have a wicked sense of humor, I have to admit it, and as a result of that, from time to time, I have my my sort of Weird Al Yankovic personality comes out. And so I penned a limerick to commemorate Donna's arrest. So feel free to share it if you want to. Here's what I said. Donna had Charlie kill Dan because she wanted her grandkids in hand. Now they'll visit their Grammy inside the slammy. Donna never saw that in the plan. So here's what I want to do. I want to have a limerick contest. I know a lot of you guys are creative, but rather than fill up the comments with the limericks, I really would like to see you email them to me at my address up there, and I will pick a winner and a runner-up, and I will announce that on the channel, and then I will send autographed copies of my book to those folks if they win, or when they win, I should say. At any rate, I hope you have enjoyed today. I hope the limerick made you laugh a little bit. I know there are a lot of people out there who just absolutely hate the Adelsons, and I'm sorry about that because I don't necessarily think all of them have equal degrees of culpability, but certainly that is not what you would call a family. Well, I would say it this way. That's a family with very altered family dynamics. Thank you very much for watching. If you have the opportunity today, do something nice for somebody, and then come back here and see me tomorrow at the beach. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.